There is water under your feet right now, and the most expensive machine ever built cannot pull it 1 inch higher than a rusty hand pump. 33.9 feet is the ceiling for both, set by the weight of the air above us. A $70 piece of steel has worked with that limit since the Civil War. That steel still matters. More than 43 million Americans drink from a private well. Most paid a drilling crew thousands. Yet the parts for a working well, a steel point, a few pipes, a hand pump, sit on hardware shelves for about $70. By the mid-1880s, over 500,000 of these simple wells ran across nearly every state. The practice faded for decades, before recently coming back. Strangest of all, in one state, a homeowner can legally drive that steel in this afternoon. Yet just across the state line, the same act requires a paid, licensed contractor. Nothing about the water changed, only the law did. The story of that steel starts in a war camp. During the American Civil War, a Union volunteer officer named Nelson W. Greene from Cortland, New York, faces a problem as old as armies. His men need water, and digging an open well takes days, which they do not have. Greene tries something different. He hammers a pointed pipe straight down, foot by foot, until the tip passes below the water table. A simple hand pump goes on top. Within a few hours, the ground gives up water. It is a soldier's quick fix, crude and absurdly simple. Even at the time, some dispute whether Greene is truly the first to try it, but he is the one who writes it down. After the war, in 1871, he secured a reissued patent, number 4372, and partnered with Cowing and Company of Seneca Falls, New York, to sell the equipment. The timing is good. The country is pushing west, and new farms need water first. The idea spreads the way good tools do, from one farm to the next. It needs no drilling rig or hired crew. A single farmer with a sledgehammer can finish the job in an afternoon. Across the sandy soils of the Midwest and the East, the driven well becomes as unremarkable as a fence post. This was field survival knowledge rather than a laboratory breakthrough, a trick invented by thirsty soldiers and patented only after the fact, which raises the obvious question: how does a hammered pipe pull water out of solid ground at all? And the answer sits in the air, not the steel. Most people have the pump backwards. A pump does not actually suck water up a pipe. No machine can. It really just removes the air inside the pipe, and the atmosphere does the lifting. The ocean of air above your head presses down on the ground at 14.7 pounds per square inch. Empty the pipe, and that pressure pushes water up from below, like squeezing one side of a soaked sponge. At sea level, that full push supports a water column about 33.9 feet high, roughly the height of a 3-story house. No motor or budget can raise that ceiling. Physics put it there. In real ground, with pipe friction and imperfect seals, the practical limit drops to about 20 to 25 feet. That is why the driven well works. Where the water table sits close to the surface, a $70 point and a hand pump can match anything money can buy. One honest warning: the U.S. Geological Survey calls the saturated ground below the water table an aquifer, permeable material that holds and moves water. The point screen is only a doorway. It filters nothing, so whatever soaked in from above comes through. In one USGS study of 2,100 private wells, roughly 1 in 5 held a contaminant above a health benchmark. More than half of local health departments, around 56%, regulate private drinking water, which still leaves plenty that don't. But here is the good news buried in those numbers. Everything that can go wrong down there is already known, named, and testable. There are no mysteries in that water, only a checklist. A simple answer is coming. First, a harder question. If the physics is free and the parts are cheap, why does almost everyone hire a professional instead? Because the moment a simple thing becomes valuable, someone tries to own it. In 1871, Greene assigned half his patent rights to William and George Andrews, New York pipe and boiler manufacturers. Instead of building wells, the brothers charged for permission. Their licensing campaign ran from Long Island to Oregon, demanding at least $10 per well, a couple hundred in modern terms, whether the farmer had bought the equipment or hammered in a pipe himself. Farmers fought back, forming anti-drive well defense associations. In Michigan, the State Grange, the era's leading farmers' organization, took over the legal defense. It did not stop the flood. In 1883 alone, over 800 driven well lawsuits hit a single federal district in New York. Their answer had already gone to print in 1877, a pamphlet titled "Tube Wells, Our Patent, Free to Everybody," teaching a modified well built to steer clear of what they called all pretended patents. The patent war burned out. Today's barrier is quieter and fully legal. Most states, including Indiana, Iowa, and Kansas, require a licensed contractor for any well, even on private land. A minority, like Pennsylvania, still let homeowners do it themselves. Private wells also sit outside the federal Safe Drinking Water Act. The owner alone answers for what comes up. Beyond that, there is no campaign, only a market. A professionally drilled well is a $6,000 to $16,000 project of rigs, crews, and quotes, while a driven point costs a weekend and a receipt. Only one of those can feed an industry, and an industry only advertises what it can sell. The driven well was never passed over because it failed. It was passed over because no one gets rich teaching you to do it yourself. But the parts never left the shelves. Tractor Supply, Amazon, and farm stores still carry every piece. Simmons, K2, County Line, Vevor. A steel well point with a 2 to 3 foot perforated screen for roughly $30 to $60. Threaded pipe in 1 1/4 inch or 2 inch sections. Couplings, a drive cap, and a pitcher pump rated for lifts up to 25 feet. 3 steps stand between you and your own water. First, read the ground and the rules. This method needs sandy, loose soil and a water table within about 25 feet. Clay, hardpan, or buried boulders defeat it, and a weak aquifer gives little water. Before any steel touches ground, check state and county rules. Even a garden-only well may need to meet drinking well standards. Second, drive the point. Thread it onto the first pipe section, fit the drive cap, and pound it straight down, adding sections as it sinks. Once the screen passes below the water table, the atmosphere handles the rest. In cold country, protect the pump from frost, or a northern winter will crack it. Third, test before you trust. Coliform bacteria, a sign of sewage or animal waste getting in, plus nitrates, dissolved solids, and pH once a year. The screen only opens the door. Testing shows what walked through. If the water sits deeper, a deep well hand cylinder set below the frost line can lift from 200 feet down. All of this is plain old rural know-how, and it still belongs to anyone with sandy ground and a sledgehammer, because the water is already there. It ran under this ground before anyone patented a method to reach it or wrote a law about who may try. A driven well creates nothing. It opens a door to something that never left. The farmers of 1877 understood this and printed a pamphlet instead of paying. Their question never received an answer. It went quiet, buried under a century of contractor quotes and paperwork. It still hangs over every backyard. Who really owns the way down to the water?